We've now managed to get hold of our Syrian correspondent. Remember, Syria currently has a caretaker prime minister, Mohammed al-Bashir, who has announced that he has been tasked with heading a transitional government in Syria through until early March 2025. Meanwhile, as all of this goes on, fighting is continuing between different forces right the way across the country. We've got a Turkish security source who said that on Tuesday, Turkey's intelligence agency destroyed major military supplies. So Philip Crowther is joining us. He is the Associated Press correspondent in Damascus. Philip, thank you for joining me. Let's start out with Mohammed al-Bashir. He's been tasked with what seems like an insurmountable task at this current situation, heading a transitional government in Syria. What more can you tell us about it?
Well, look, it's been a remarkably peaceful and orderly transition here in Damascus so far. As you mentioned, at the head of this interim government now stands Mohammed al-Bashir. He was the leader of Idlib province. This was even while Bashar al-Assad was still in power here in Damascus. That is precisely where the insurgency began that made its way so quickly here to Damascus. The insurgency, of course, led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS. Now, al-Bashir was at that government meeting that happened here in Damascus yesterday that included a lot of government ministers from the time still of Bashar al-Assad. There were 4 ministers missing, including those of Defense and Foreign Affairs. Still, it is quite remarkable to see this transition ongoing. The outgoing Prime Minister Jalali also at that meeting here in Damascus yesterday. You might remember, very significant moment in this swift overthrow of the leadership of al-Assad here in Syria was that video put out by the Prime Minister Jalali saying that he was going to stay put despite Assad fleeing the country, that he would want to be part of an orderly transition, and he very much now is.
Philip, I've got to say, though, this is not a situation anyone would want to be running a government in when he's got several external forces currently embattled around him. He's got Israel, Turkiye, the United States, just to name 3 of the big ones. So what is going on with regards to the fighting forces around the country, and what's the latest on the ground?
Yeah, well, for example, that same insurgency group that led the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad here in Damascus has made some pretty significant gains in the east of the country, saying that they've taken over the city of Deir al-Zur, thereby expelling a Kurdish-led and US-backed force that had taken control of that city only in the last few days. That group now saying that it wants to make further gains in the city of Raqqa, for example. Now, you mentioned the countries of Turkey and Israel, for example. They, of course, are trying to take advantage, if you will, not necessarily of a power vacuum here in Syria, but certainly this period of uncertainty. Israel, for example, it has staged hundreds of airstrikes on Syria, and the Israeli government, though denying that it is sending its forces toward Damascus. That is something that was reported yesterday, but certainly cannot be confirmed at this point, and is being very clearly denied by the Israeli government.
What's the progress on the human side of this? We've got a lot of displaced families that are returning to Syria, haven't we?
Well, you aren't seeing that huge influx of people returning to their homeland that you might have imagined. There have been hundreds of Syrians at Turkish border posts waiting to enter back into their homeland, but we, for example, were surprised when we entered the country by the small number of people who were returning from Lebanon into Syria, though there has been a steady flow of them wanting to come back. There are many reasons why we're not seeing that huge influx. It's been a long time, after all, almost 14 years of civil war here in Syria. A lot of those families, a lot of those people have been away for a long time and have made new lives for themselves abroad. Also, those who might be considering returning quickly here to Syria, what do they expect to see here? Well, it is very much a period of uncertainty. Who knows what is going to happen next here in Syria? Continued civil war, still a very distinct possibility here. So maybe there are quite a lot of people who are biding their time, and it certainly makes sense.
Philip, make sure you stay safe, and thank you for that expert analysis live from the situation in Syria.